Are we going to take a break at some point?
We don't really take it. It's going to be just live for 90.
All
Okay,
right.
so we are live. We got the little light at the top there. G, you just joined us. Thanks for jumping in. A couple other people will be joining us tonight. This will be the January edition of the Every Second Matters chat discussion. And, it's a brand new year, so we're going to try to kind of change the format a little bit. And one of the things I wanted to do last year, we never really got to it, but I'm going to try to put a lot more time into it this year to accomplish that, is have guests on who are already in the, let's say, business of the gun rights organizations, or are knowledgeable about it. And we're going to start off with a good friend of mine, Charles Heller, who's been in both the Arizona Citizens Defense League and the JPFO. And I'm not going to be able to give you as good an introduction as you can give yourself. So, Charles, feel free to introduce yourself.
So introduce yourself. Why not? I'm originally from Chicago. I had an air gun range in my grandfather's basement when it certainly wasn't legal there, and I have fired thousands and thousands. I used to shoot a Daisy model 1894 lever action BB gun, and at a 60-foot away target, which I've come to realize over a period of time is a good long distance for a BB gun. And a dance.
Your microphone sounded a little distant there. Distant.
I just raised my volume. I'll just lower it again.
Perfect.
How's that? Good?
Yep, perfect. Right.
All right. So anyway, I shot many thousands of rounds at a Dansk coffee tin lid, and made myself into a rifleman, and then later a BB pistol, the marksman BB pistol, which wouldn't go 60 feet. Anyway, and over the years I moved to Arizona.
We lost you again. It sounds like you're slowly drifting off into an auditorium.
I haven't changed a thing. I haven't moved.
Weird. Now
I haven't. All right, I haven't done anything different. Anyway, I moved from Chicago in 1978 because I would have, like an idiot, I would have registered a gun, but the scam in Chicago was, well, you can have any handgun you want as long as it's registered. Okay, here's my registration. Oh, sorry, we don't accept those. That's what the entire McDonald lawsuit was about a few years ago in Chicago, was forcing them to accept registration so the person could bring a new handgun into the Chicago area.
Charles, we lost you again. Is it just happening to me, or gee, are you having the same issue?
No, it's just happening to you. I haven't moved. I'm making it a point not to be exactly stationary. I haven't touched a control. I haven't done anything.
It does seem to fade away a bit as he's talking, though.
I'm not doing anything. I'm not touching anything. My elbow is on the desk. I'll take my elbow off the desk. Maybe.
Not sure, because you sound great right now.
I haven't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the exact same distance from the mic. Nothing's changed. I swear I think I know how to use a microphone. Anyway, so going on with my bio. I moved to Arizona when I was 21, where a free man stuck a gun on his hip if he felt like it, and I felt like it, and bought my first handgun, a Harrington and Richardson 949 9-shot 22, and just sort of grew in the enjoyment of firearms. Eventually, I took an NRA course and became an instructor.
Whoa, it got really bad again, Charles.
I haven't done anything.
It's weird. Whenever you come back, it's really, really good.
Is this any better?
Much better.
All right, I moved back about an inch. So anyway, I took an instructor class in '92, and in '94, when the concealed weapons permit system came out, I became certified as a state instructor. I've been teaching classes since 1994 in CCW. I've developed a business doing that. Been doing it now for 20 years. Along the way, as the internet grew, I got to know other people in the Right to Keep and Bear Arms community, and I chatted up 6 of them, or 5 others of them, and over a period of time from 2004 to 2005, 4 of us met in 2005 at the Five and Diner on Ray Road in Chandler, and we formed, because there wasn't an effective gun lobby in Arizona, we formed one, and we called it the Arizona Citizens Defense League, and since then, we've gone well over 11,000 members.
Oh, I wonder if it's a power thing to your microphone, because you cut off right at the good part there, but you said you started the Arizona Citizens Defense League, one of the 4.
Right, in 2005. started the Arizona Citizens Defense League. And we've gone to from 4 guys in 2005 at the Five and Diner on Ray Road in Chandler to well over 11,000 members this year.
And well, first off, there's people asking Charles the Heller from the Heller decision. So no, different Heller, same last name, but maybe.
Yeah, I know Dick Heller. I've interviewed him on the radio, but I'm no Dick Heller.
Now, Arizona Citizens Defense League. We're going to talk about JPFO here in a bit too, but let's start out with AZCDL, Arizona Citizens Defense League. Like I say, it started in 2005. We've talked to Sean from Florida Carry, and he's told us how he emulated your guys' kind of blueprint. But you guys started from, was it the Virginia, or you guys took some lead from the Virginia?
Right.
Defense League?
We took the bylaws from the Virginia Citizens Defense League in order for us to incorporate. And we, of course, made some changes in it. Parenthetically, a few years ago at Gun Rights Policy Conference, the secretary of VCDL says, "Hey, we can't find our bylaws. We understand you have a copy of ours. Can we have it?" we ended up giving them our bylaws, which by then had changed a lot since we got them from them years before. They said, "Hey, thanks. This is good stuff." So I think they're running on a new set of bylaws.
And some of the accomplishments of the Arizona Citizens Defense League, for me, it would be the Arizona Constitutional Carry is the big, well, I think one of the big banners, but there's a long list.
Right, there's a very long list. We've actually had 34 good bills signed by 2 governors, and pretty soon there's going to be a 3rd governor that's going to start signing our bills, I have a funny feeling. So yeah, Constitutional Carry is, of course, our flagship. But don't be fooled. There's been a lot of other good gun laws, and Constitutional Carry was originally why the organization was formed. But by the same token, it's not the only thing, and it may not be the most significant thing that we've done. We've had also a lot of defeats. We consider that to be part of the program.
Well, you're fading off, so I think it's weird. Whenever I ask you a question, you come back. It's loud, so when you fade off, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to interrupt and.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Is it better now?
Whenever you come back, it's loud and clear. It's 5 for 5. How are you guys? Marco just joined us from Maryland, and G, you're up in Prescott. Are you guys hearing it? Okay.
Yes, when he just spoke right now, it was a lot louder than when I first came in.
It seems like every time there's a break in the speech, it comes back loud, like perfectly fine.
Maybe it's just a battery thing or some kind of pickup. We'll get the technical glitch figured out, but
maybe I just need to learn how to speak in short bursts.
There we go. You're right, though. I think something like the brandishing issue, that was an issue here in Arizona because it wasn't addressed, correct? And it was just we didn't know what we could do. And AZCDL helped figure that out.
There were 2 things about that. First of all, it had been vetoed twice by the previous governor, but we were able to bypass. Well, when the new governor came in, when the one that had vetoed it twice resigned to go do something with the federal government, then the new governor signed the bill because it was very clear we had a problem. If a person was in fear for their life and put their hand on their gun, they would get charged with aggravated assault. And that doesn't happen anymore in Arizona.
You guys will help us check for questions out there that are coming in.
Definitely. I'm sorry, I just jumped in. So, I mean, like, what was the question before I jumped in? I'm sorry.
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to whoever asked the question.
Oh.
I think we were just getting an introduction and stuff.
Okay. I'm sorry. Since I jumped in.
All right,
so Charles, when did... Go ahead, G-Webs.
No, go.
I was just going to ask, when did you say the organization was formed?
In 2005. We met throughout from the beginning of 2005 to about June or July. And that's we were incorporated, I believe, in June or July, early July of 2005. It was the 4 of us: Fred Dank, who's our treasurer, Dave Kopp, who's our president, John Wentling, who is our vice president, and myself, who was the secretary for a long time. I resigned from the board a little over a year ago, basically to make room for new people, for new talent to come on board.
Gotcha.
And
What was that process like?
JPFO? I'm sorry.
There was two of you at once.
This is the JPFO?
No, this is Arizona Citizens Defense League.
Okay, I'm sorry.
JPFO is much older.
And you were involved in that as well?
I'm sorry?
And you were involved in that as well?
Yes, I was the executive director of that for about 2.5 years, from 2010 to from 2012 to early 2014. I was the executive director of it, and Aaron Zellman, who was the founder of JPFO, passed away in 2010, and they were looking for leadership. Actually, I came on in 2011, and they were looking for some leadership and some direction, and also some fundraising, and I was able to help in all of those things.
Well, I have a question. So, I mean, all right, since you were directly involved in that organization, Washington, D.C., I wouldn't say has a substantial Jewish community, but they have an influential Jewish community where their communities are very concentrated and could control half of like a voting block. So, and at least here, I don't know if you know Potomac, Maryland. Potomac, Maryland actually has a substantial Jewish community, and they are one of the richest neighborhoods in the world. And I was just wondering if you had any contacts there, or I mean, because this is like Washington D.C., so there's a lot of influence around here. So
no, JPFO does not have any specific outreach to particular communities. We would, I'm sure, be happy to do that through the rabbinic director, Rabbi David Ben-Dori. I'm sure be happy to do that, but JPFO recently reformulated itself. The board that was in place resigned, and the organization now lives under the wing of the Second Amendment Foundation. It's going to have to find its new legs underneath it and come back as an organization. Much of our structure, for instance, our webmaster is still there, and our rabbinic.
It's Diane. I'm just breaking so you can come back loud.
Much of our how about now?
It's super loud.
Much of our structure is in place. The rabbi, our rabbinic director, our webmaster, but the board of directors is new, and it's living under the wing of the Second Amendment Foundation, and will find its new legs soon.
I'm going to switch gears back to AZCDL, and one of the reasons I like the AZCDL so much, or I'm so enthused about it and so eager to share that with people, is that I've seen it grow. I've seen it start from nothing and exist and do great things, and then I've seen people emulate it. So we already had a question from Dano out there, and I'll just read his question verbatim. What were the initial difficulties in forming a new group with similar goals as other existing organizations, and how did you resolve them?
Well, first of all, we're not a group that has similar goals than other organizations. We were formed for one reason and one reason only: to be the effective lobby at the legislature, period. We weren't formed to do anything else. There was no effective gun lobby in the Arizona legislature. I know that's going to make some folks in a larger three-letter organization aggravated, but there was no constant presence for right to keep and bear arms, for self-defense, civil rights.
I'm just breaking you for a second because it faded out.
Am I back?
Yep, you're always back. It's weird.
There was no effective lobby for self-defense, civil rights in Arizona's legislature. The NRA came in and certainly helped when there were issues in the legislature, but there was no constant, ongoing presence of people networking with legislators and proposing models for legislation, or helping legislators who wanted to help out the right to keep and bear arms find other legislators who would co-sponsor bills. There wasn't
Oh,
anybody.
all but gone again. Is it happening to you guys too? I hate to keep interrupting Charles if it's not.
It does. It
It's
does.
so
Like he
weird
starts
how
all
it goes
strong
away
for
and
like
comes back.
5 seconds and then he just fades.
And we're
Well,
gonna work on this.
I've been having a similar problem with this. Oh, you know what? I think I might know why. Hold on one second here. Recording devices, mic at the rear panel. Okay. Did that make any difference?
Well, we'll know if you keep talking and it fades out again. So
Yeah, I've been having this problem with recording my sound files in my own computer, so it's not surprising. It comes on real loud and then fades quickly.
well, let's take a second then to mention we just kind of jump straight into the pro gun stuff, but just a little aside from yourself. I mean, you've been running you are a radio show host, and if anybody's interested in listening to Charles's shows, he's got a swap shop type of show, which is an hour now on Sunday mornings. We're sort of like eBay before there was eBay, and then the Liberty Watch Radio and America Armed and Free, which are both available. I pick the best ofs, at least my favorites, and put them on the podcast. But you've been doing that show for how long now? Those shows for how long now?
Well, I started Swap Shop about 16 years ago, and almost 16 years ago, and I started Liberty Watch and Armed and Free about 14 years ago.
Now, I don't want you to brag, but I'm going to go ahead and let you. I mean, of the syndicated radio shows that are out there, I mean, are any of them been around that long?
In terms of syndication,
Gun show.
I don't know how long Gun Talk with Tom Gresham has been on. I know Mark Walters is in about his 6th year with Armed American Radio, and he's got about, I think, almost 200 stations. So, that's an accomplishment. I would like to take my show national. I think I'm ready. In fact, I know I'm ready. In fact, I'm chomping at the bit. I just haven't figured out how to get it put there yet.
Well, maybe there's people out there listening that might be able to offer some suggestions. How would people contact you if they're interested in something that we talk about tonight?
You can always reach me at my email, which is charles@libertywatchradio.com. Again, charles@libertywatchradio.com.
So Dano asked about starting when you started AZCDL back in 2005 with forming a group with similar goals, and we addressed that. But now I want to ask more specifically, what gave you the nerve to make a group? Why did you think you knew better than government? And then 2, why did you think that just you 4 guys could do something? And then how can we encourage others to do the same?
Oh, that's an hour.
You can have as much time as you want, I'm sure.
What happened was we saw the 4. Actually, there were 6 of us. 2 of the 4 of us actually ended up forming the organization. 2 couldn't do it, but we saw that there was no effective gun lobby in Arizona. I mean, it was just clear there was nobody effective. Stupid stuff would come up in the legislature, and there was no effective voice in Arizona to speak against stupid stuff. And furthermore, there was no voice speaking for good stuff. There was no concerted effort. The NRA would come in occasionally when it had, when the lobbyist had his rounds, would come and talk to our legislature about ideas they had. And
just stopping you because it faded again, sorry.
ASRPA came in, and ASRPA is the state NRA affiliate, and they do have a couple guys who go to the legislature and who are very good people, but there was no constant presence, and that's what we knew was needed. Now,
and the thing is, I can remember back then too, they were always right there I'll just say that the 3-letter organizations were out there, the other lettered organizations were out there beating their chests and ready to take all kinds of credit every time something happened, and were nowhere to be found when it was time to take responsibility for something getting dropped.
That's more modern, and that's not really NRA that does that. That's another organization based in Colorado that does stuff like that. But still, I mean, the reason we knew we could do it was Dave had been lobbying for the legislature for years with the Modified Motorcycle Association, and John Wentling had been an informal lobbyist for many years as well. So, I mean, there were a lot of guys that had a lot of talent and horsepower that were willing to put. There was no structure under which to put the talent and horsepower. So we leashed a team together and we've been
But it faded out there. It's weird. It kind of got loud and then it got soft again. But you leased a team together.
We leashed a team together that had a lot of horsepower, both in lobbying. What we did was we pooled our talents. Dave's a fine lobbyist, so is John. Fred is a retired government executive. He's very good with structural stuff of an organization. Fred Dank is really the hero of AZCDL. Fred has been working tirelessly for 9 years, 30 to 40 hours a week, utterly uncompensated, and he's the one doing all our infrastructure, making sure we do everything right. And then myself, I'm the publicity guy, and I knew where to get stuff. I also used to own, and still do for that matter, an advertising specialty company.
Well, you said you still own
an advertising specialty company, and I produce most of our collateral items. I produce our banners, our bumper stickers, a lot of our giveaway stuff. I produce all that stuff.
Okay, let's talk about the bumper stickers and the little cards. We've talked about the business cards before because I think those are super. I often tell the story when it comes up of the time we were in that Mexican restaurant. I think it was on 22nd Street. It's gone now. And we were there eating lunch, I think, and they had that sign up, and you politely talked to the manager. Well, I'll let you tell the story. Where you remember the lunch I'm talking about?
Yeah, but I don't remember. I remember that lunch, but you can go ahead and tell a story.
Okay, well, the AZCDL has these little business cards that let a business owner know that you're pro-gun, you're pro-freedom, and you're not going to frequent their establishment because of their sign, and some reasons why. And it's something that you can either print and just download and print the thing and make them yourself, or you can just order them for very little money off the website, and you just keep them with you. And like I say, when we were eating lunch this one afternoon, Charles just real politely asked for the manager. Manager came over. He let him know that the sign, was an issue for us, and would be in the future. And basically, if I remember correctly, he just said, "Oh, that's we didn't even pay any attention to that. Someone put it up, and I'm gonna go take it down right now." Yeah, and it was totally effective to just take that initiative and let people know.
The trick to it is you don't want to be a bull in a china shop. You don't want to confront people frontally. You want to nicely tell them that as a matter of respect, you're going to obey their wishes, but that's going to cost them your business. But the other side of that coin is that you come back, you tell them when you take the sign down, when you make that quality decision, I'm going to come back here, and then you give them a green card. The green card has that infamous green circle with no slash that says guns are allowed. And when you come back, when you take that sign down, we're going to come back with a lot of friends, and we're going to bring a lot of business.
Sorry, I'm sorry, because it's important. You're going to come back.
Yeah, we're going to come back, and we're going to bring you a lot of business when you take the sign down. So, of course, you don't have to tell them that your business probably won't survive if you don't take it down, because we're going to, it's going to put a dent in you. But we don't say that.
Well, yeah, but the implication is that you can bring them more business if they take the sign down. The unspoken opposite of that is that they're not going to be there with the sign.
Right, and in that case of that restaurant, they're not. I don't know if they have the sign.
That's true. Yeah, I don't think the sign A did that.
Yeah, one person wanted to know about helping out-of-state causes. Yes, we've helped sponsor several other citizens' defense leagues. We are willing to give them our bylaws. Heck, we stole them from VCDL. Why shouldn't we let someone steal them from us? And then, anybody wants help, wants to know how to run an org, we can tell them how we run ours. There's one informant in Colorado who wanted to do stuff different than us. Well, we weren't able to give them as much help as some of the others.
Oh, it went muddy again there.
We weren't able to give the one in Colorado quite as much help as some of the others that want to start a Citizens Defense League. Because after all, that's our motto.
So do you know, when you go to the Gun Rights Policy Conference, I guess we should mention something about those too, but when you go to those, do they tally, or is there a way to know how many states have a Citizens Defense League?
There's 14 CDLs throughout the United States, and they are serving as another column in the right to keep and bear arms fight. And I think what they're doing is they're keeping the NRA from making compromises. I think it's wonderful.
So Moon asked in Gun Channel's chat, how did I kind of explained to you the life every second matters. I guess I'm going to just quickly do that here. So for anybody that might be watching this for the first time, I've been mentioning it in my video blogs that I do. So just try to let people know about this. And the whole idea of the campaign is to have this logo that's catchy and not necessarily obvious, so that someone will question you, and then that gives us all an opportunity to start a conversation with someone who's potentially not a gun person, who doesn't think about the Second Amendment. It just gives us an opportunity in day-to-day life to start those conversations, or to have those conversations. So Charles, having that kind of knowledge of it, they're asking, what do you think of our little experiment here?
I'm sorry, you asking me?
Yeah.
I missed it. What did you say again?
Just what did you think of our experiment here?
Well, I love this every second matters concept. It's just
a campaign.
A campaign, and I love the idea of it. And it's something you can put out there innocuously, and people will ask about it. I love it. Every second matters. That's a great idea. It's a great concept.
Now, Mike, we're having a massive winter. I think a glacier's coming through Tucson, so my car battery died, and I couldn't get over to Charles's. But we only live like a mile from each other, and there was no way I could walk there because of the glacier. So we're actually sitting a mile from each other, approximately, talking on computers. But I meant to come over and do this on a laptop at his place, and I was going to hand you the Every Second Matters. You're going to get the last black one. We did the first run of patches last February, and I've got one left. You get that one, and then we just run a series of tan ones, and you'll get one of those. And that's, for like a Velcro section of a bag, or I like to put them on the headliner of my vehicles, so that way you always take a look at them or whatever.
I've got just a perfect spot for Velcro on my bag. What's that big one? Maxpedition, on my Maxpedition briefcase.
Right on.
Which I treasure.
Now we are monitoring the comments over on the YouTube. Looks like we've got about 30 people listening to us out in the internet, and we've got I can't see how many we've got over there on Gun Channel, so they're thanking you for answering the questions and stuff, but you can also scroll through the chat there, Charles, and I've kind of thrown some other questions up.
Okay,
feel free to pick any. And you guys, you don't have to sit quietly. If you got questions for Charles, trust me, he's better at running radio shows than I.
I'm also going to reintroduce myself. I'm Charles Heller. I'm the current media coordinator for Arizona Citizens Defense League, and I'm also dual-hatted as the media coordinator for the Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Go ahead with your question, please.
You mentioned the Arizona, in 2005 when y'all founded, that there wasn't an effective lobby, but were there, nowadays Arizona is known for as like a beacon of gun rights with constitutional carry and everything, but what was the situation like back then? Like, how was the carry situation? Were there any like restrictive laws? What kind of like prompted you to really get on the game? Was there a single issue?
Yeah, there were several. One of them, at the time, Arizona always has been an open carry state. That's never been an issue. At the time, in 1994, we had the concealed weapons permit that came in, but basically, it's licensing a right, and it's not right. And we've always wanted to change that. We've always wanted to get back to. See, Arizona never had a concealed weapons law until 1968. You know who put our concealed weapons law in? Ben Avery. Ben Avery.
You're muting out there, but you're saying the person that put in our concealed or restricted concealed carry in the first place is the one that has the largest range in the state named after.
That's right, Ben Avery, and also Ann Day, who went on to be a Supreme Court. Not Ann Day, her sister.
And this you said was in the 80s? Sorry to interrupt.
No, it was in the 60s, in 1968.
Okay, so this is in reaction to the...
What's the lady who just retired from the Supreme Court?
Susan Day O'Connor?
Yeah, Sandra Day and Ben Avery are the ones who are responsible for Arizona's concealed weapons law.
Dang, I like to like her, so now I have to put one ding on her. I still think she's cool for being a female from a ranch in southeastern Arizona, right?
I agree. I think she's wonderful. With that exception. Anyway, we had a generally decent situation for carrying firearms. We still have a long way to go in Arizona in terms of the use of force laws in Arizona. But to answer your question, in 2005, there were changes. Like we had a problem with Tucson. Tucson is forever trying to infringe the Arizona right to keep and bear arms.
Sorry, you said Tucson was infringing our right to carry?
Oh, absolutely. Tucson is the reason. Well, Tucson and Coconino County, or Tucson and Navajo County are the reasons for our strong preemption laws. There were constant infringements, and the legislature, the activists kept going back to the issue and trying to get the legislature to fix it. And finally, there was a fiasco in Arizona where we tried to get it fixed, and certain white hats rode in at the 11th hour and watered it down in order to quote, "was the only way it would pass."
Well, it carried out there. They watered it down.
Yeah, they watered it down, and finally, we got it fixed once and for all with constitutional carry in 2010. That's what finally fixed preemption once and for all.
Right. That's actually huge in just 5 years after founding. So that's awesome.
It really is. That was our dream goal to look at down the road, and it happened a lot quicker. Ironically, you know who suggested it?
Who's that?
Well,
Jan Brewer.
Really?
Jan Brewer is who gave the idea to John Wentland. Yeah, John Wentland's our vice president. John was walking his dog one night. He lives in there.
Did it happen under Napolitano or her?
No. It happened under Brewer, but Brewer suggested it before she was governor. And she said, "Hell, John, instead of just trying to decriminalize concealed carry, why don't you just go whole hog and go constitutional carry?" She actually suggested it to our vice president several years before we asked it to be run.
Wow.
Now, did it take us years and years and years of attempting constitutional carry?
No. What happened was we wanted to. We had a bill called petty offense, and it would have taken carrying a concealed weapon from being a misdemeanor, a serious misdemeanor, down to a petty offense like a parking ticket. And we tried those. Either 2 or 3 times and failed. And then we just decided to really take a bite out of the apple and go for constitutional carry, and that's what we did.
And I'm glad you did. Now, since Arizona's gotten it back, what states have followed? Do you keep track?
Well, Wyoming, I believe, has it outside of city limits, and since us, no one has done it yet, except that there's 11 states looking at it. I know Wisconsin is looking at it, and every time the Wisconsin legislature decides to start infringing, the activists threaten to run constitutional carry, and they back down. So it's kind of funny. Kentucky is looking at it. There's several other ones. There's several other states looking at it.
Now I'm about to post an interesting question for you. Someone's asking, what's your favorite EDC?
I generally like the Glock 27. It fits my body and it fits my lifestyle, and I can carry it utterly concealed. Although I could conceal a Desert Eagle if I wanted to, the way I dress, and I don't dress sloppily. I wear a shirt and tie to work, but with a belly band you can conceal just about anything. As long as the barrel is shorter than about 12 inches, you can conceal it with no problem. But I like the Glock 27. The platform gives me enough ammo to carry it, and I usually also have a P3AT in my pocket. I have a wonderful leathersmith.
Oh, it's cutting out, but I'm going to break in to interrupt you so it comes back, but also to say we have about almost 160,000 views on that first EDC video we did back in November of 2009. And then
Right.
Charles and I have done a series of it. Charles has not only one of the most thought out and unique EDCs, but obviously one of the more people love to voice their opinion on his EDC. So I threw the link out there for people who want to check it out.
Yeah, the EDC. I have a fantastic leathersmith. His name is Dan Thorpe. Of his website is thorshammercustomleather.com. Again, Thor's Hammer Custom Leather. and he has made me some phenomenal pieces. I've got one holster that carries my Leatherman tool, a spare flashlight, my keys, a very good fast-action straight knife, and has a pouch behind it for my P3AT. And it's almost an EDC. It's almost a one-piece EDC. If not for all the other crap, it would be.
That's fading out. Sorry, one-piece EDC.
It's a one-piece EDC, and it would be if not for all the other crap I carry. But it's only 6 pounds 11 ounces, so it's not a lot. Not a lot in weight. It's just about 17 items that make up my EDC.
And it's all about 2 is 1, which a lot of people agree with.
Not really. It's more to do with what side of the body that each item is on. That you should have a stuff available to your left or right hand. Especially those of us who are a little larger of size, or especially those of us who have any handicap issues with arthritis, which is beginning to creep in my life, and a couple other things. That's a way of mobility.
All right. So,
didn't Arkansas get constitutional carry in 2013? No, they didn't. Arkansas got open carry, but I don't think they have constitutional carry. I don't think Arkansas has permitless carry. I could be wrong. I don't know everything, but I think we are the only ones in the modern time with constitutional carry. The only other exception to that is Alaska. Alaska got it by legislature, and also Vermont has constitutional carry, but that's by a Vermont Supreme Court decision from 1905.
1905?
Mm-hmm.
I knew they'd been a long time, but so I didn't realize. I guess you've looked into it. I didn't realize it was actually by decree. I thought it was just they never addressed it, so it was never.
No, it's by a Supreme Court decision, and it was actually a criminal prosecution, and it resulted in that decision, that the Constitution meant exactly what it said. What a spineful Supreme Court they must have had.
Something that I think you can shed some light on, because when we have these discussions and we don't have anybody in who's really an expert, or at least in the field or in the know, we sort of just theorize on things. So, do you think there can be an opinion to be had, or is it just fruitless? But is it better to go after it through the Supreme Court?
No,
through lobbying, through
there's a number of theories on how to do it. I can tell you one thing: the worst thing in the world to do is for you to go out yourself and try and be your own lawyer and try and win a case, because every part of government is stacked against you when you do that, and then you get to have the dishonor of having the bad decision named after you. You get to be the Roe v. Wade of the gun lobby. Don't do that. I can tell you that. Don't do that. If you want to bring a case, the way to do it.
Sorry, it faded out. So if you want to bring a case, the way to do it.
The way to it didn't fade out. I stopped talking to let it reset. The way to do it is to go to the people who are doing this, like the Second Amendment Foundation, and develop either yourself as the perfect plaintiff, or develop another perfect plaintiff, someone like Dick Heller, or someone like...
Sorry, cut out again after create another perfect plaintiff.
Like Dick Heller, or like Shirley Parker. The Heller case was called Parker before it was called Heller. Develop perfect plaintiffs, people who don't look bad when you shine a light on them, like Dick Heller. And you develop a case and you frame it very, very narrowly, and you sue the government. Don't wait for the government to prosecute you.
Cut out. Sorry. You see the government?
You sue the government. You don't wait for the government to prosecute you. The best way that we think at the Citizens Defense League to do things is to go into the legislature and affect the change you can at the legislative level. At the legislative level. Don't try and fight in the courts. When you fight in the courts, you're fighting in their venue.
You fight with.
You fight in court. In their venue. When you're fighting in court, you're fighting in their venue. When you fight in a legislature, at least if you have a friendly legislature, you're fighting in your venue.
I always thought that the best case is like DC Heller. I think in one of these chats we're talking about is like the reason why, like, someone needed to get arrested first, right? Like, was he arrested? I'm not too sure.
No, he was not arrested. But that's a very good question. The problem was standing, because if you haven't been prosecuted, then you don't have standing. Well, what Dick Heller did is what his original lawyer, Dane von Breckenrupert, told him to do, and that is to go try to register a gun and have them say no.
So that's the whole thing, but he wasn't even allowed to possess a handgun, right?
Well, no, that's not true either. He's had one legally. He's had one legally in his house for years because he had it before the ban came. So the funny thing about it, most people don't know, is that Dick Heller already had a gun in his house, a legal gun in his house, but he couldn't load it, and that was
right. You couldn't have it loaded.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
in fact, it had to be disassembled, but he had a gun. Anyway, he went and tried to register a gun, and DC turned him down, and that's why the case is called Heller, not Parker. It's because nobody else tried to register a gun, and Dick Heller did, because his lawyer told him to, his first lawyer. Anyway, going back to what you were saying about what we do is go into the legislature and we lobby in the legislature to make sure that the case never gets to court. You don't want to be a victim. You don't want to be the prosecutor. You don't want to be the defendant. You want to prosecute the case. You want to sue them if you're going to court.
You want to sue them.
You don't want to be prosecuted and try defenders.
So I always thought that's interesting because that makes me feel better. So I always thought, like, in horrible places like D.C. or New York City, that someone had to have enough gumption to go and actually get themselves arrested.
Well,
and then go all the way up to the Supreme Court and challenge it, right?
Right. You have to be able to. You have to have an articulable damage to have standing. And Dick Heller's damage was he tried to register a gun and they refused him. And he believed they violated his rights, and they did, of course, by refusing to register his gun. And that's how he gained standing, and that's how it got all the way up to the Supremes. I want to address something. One of the questions has been about long-term goals, and another has been, what if I-594, like happened in Washington?
You're just quiet, so I'm interrupting you. I'm just wondering, is it possible that we constantly interrupt each other, but this always would happen if we ever were polite and let someone talk?
I don't think so.
No, this is a problem with my computer. It's been doing this, and Pete, I'll talk to you off the air about it.
Okay, we'll get this fixed for any other future ones, for the future ones.
It's just aggravating. What I was going to say is I-594 is coming to Arizona. It's going to be the biggest fight in right to keep and bear arms history in Arizona. We're working on it even now as we speak, as their media director. I'm telling you that bill is coming towards Arizona.
And we're talking about the the Washington State. Sure, right. Let's go ahead and make it so that everybody has to
make it virtually impossible to transact business in firearms. Let me give you an example. There was an annual meeting of the Citizens Defense League last year in October in Phoenix, and the speaker was Ken Blanchard of Black Man with a Gun. I'm deliberately pausing so that the...
It doesn't seem to help, though. It's like when we interrupt you, it works for whatever reason.
Well, radio has interrupted.
You know what? Something we haven't tried is up at those little things at the top there where we were playing with the settings before. Perhaps try adjusting the bandwidth a little bit down, since you're not using your camera anyway.
Adjust the bandwidth uses. Okay. I'm going to go... All right. Let's see if that makes any difference. I don't know how you hit save.
Oh, you just go away from it and it saves it.
All right, got it. All right, I lowered the bandwidth a little bit. Anyway, in the example I was going to use with Ken Blanchard as our speaker. Ken came here from Maryland, and he didn't want to go through the hassle of bringing a gun with him on the plane. Now, you don't understand, this guy's a retired police officer, he's a retired Central Intelligence Agency officer. He's a credible, qualified guy. And he came here, and I handed him my Glock. I loaned it to him for the weekend. And if we'd have done that in Washington, we'd have both committed a crime. And when he'd have handed it back to me, it would have been a second crime. So that's an example of what you can't do in Washington, which you can't do here.
Yeah, that was an example of what you can do in Arizona, but not in Washington.
Right, you can do in Arizona, but not in Washington. And if I said it the reverse, I apologize. But the uh, the Bloomberg
I was just interrupting you, like I just did. Sorry.
The Bloomberg organization has said, it says on their website, that they plan to bring this to Nevada in 2016 and also to Arizona. And they've already filed the papers in Nevada to do it.
What do you think went wrong in Washington that got that thing passed?
What went wrong? Nothing. They looked at the circumstance and they read the tea leaves and they realized if they put it on the ballot, it would pass. And it did. As far as what went wrong, what went wrong is the anti-freedom people finally woke up a little bit.
And they voted it.
Well, they knew that anything. If you want to look at what went wrong is nobody read the bill. It was an 18-page bill that criminalized most firearm transactions.
Most
firearm transactions. Remember that they have to go through a dealer.
Oh, that time it went soft right away.
Oh, well, remember that they have to go through an FFL. And so the FFL requires that in order for it to go through the FFL's books, it has to be in order for them to use NICS, it has to go through their books. So what it does, but it also creates a state registration list as well.
Creates a registration as well.
Yeah, a state registration as well, because all handguns are registered there. It creates a state registration. So what it does is there's no such thing as a private transfer anymore. All transfers are through dealers. It's the same thing California has, but California's system is not nearly so onerous.
So do you think Bloomberg and them, their next step would be, okay, we got them now with there's no such thing as private sales and there's already sort of like de facto registration. Next thing would be like a real registration, because we've had people from Washington here try to argue that it's not really registration because
it's absolutely
there's no database or something. There's no
it's absolutely registration, and there is a database. It creates mandates a state database. All transactions have to be reported by dealers to law enforcement.
How do you think they're going to be able to enforce this? I mean, it just seems like there's a million ways they could enforce this, all the way from the draconian to the ignoring it.
They can't enforce it. That's the point. They want to create laws that aren't enforceable and aren't obeyable. Because what they're doing is it's exactly like what Obamacare did. It's an engineered collapse. It's an engineered failure. They're going to set up a system that can never work, and then when it doesn't work, they're going to say, well, we need more laws.
There you go. I don't think anyone's ever summed it up like that, but that's a perfect way to see it clearly.
It's an engineered crisis. But anyway, that's going to be the next big fight. I have, by the way, resigned all my other volunteer obligations strictly to fight on that front in Arizona.
Well, you got anything for me, Need?
How about the Second Amendment Foundation? Are they going to try to help out states that are in jeopardy from these tyrants?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
I'm a member there. What about the NRA? I'm a member there too. I don't think they helped out Washington much because they looked and saw, oh, this is inevitable there or something. Right?
Well, I think you have to ask the NRA what the NRA is going to do. I can't speak for them. I am a member, but I'm not in any form of management for NRA, and I can speak for AZCDL, but I can't speak for NRA. I'm sorry.
No, I know you can't speak for these other organizations, but when you say you have to ask them, let me ask you a question. When you go to the Gun Rights Policy Conference, which we should probably talk about too, but when you go to that, I'm assuming the Second Amendment Foundation is present, but is the NRA present at that?
No.
Okay.
Insofar as the member organizations like AZRPA is there, the NRA affiliate is there, and many people who are NRA affiliate organizations come to the conference, but the NRA is not there. Wayne LaPierre used to come and address us. He hasn't in the last few years.
But in other words, they don't come as a participant, as an equal person or entity at the summit.
No, it's not an NRA style event. It's a grassroots activist convention is what GRPC is. And that's not what the NRA is, so why should they be there?
I'm not wondering. I'm not putting connotation on it. I'm just helping to clarify for people. So, because we've talked about the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and I'm just trying to. I think that again, when the whole thing about every second matters, at least from my point of view, is not to add another layer of complexity to the amount of media that's out there in the pro-freedom / pro-firearms news feeds, or stuff on the internet. I'd like to help filter it. So I'm just trying to help people that have heard these terms before get an idea of who the participants are and how they interact. So I think what kind of brought that to my mind is when you said got to ask the NRA. Let me follow up with this one. Is there a way that a person who's curious can ask the AZCDL or the JPFO, and then if you know the NRA or some of those other orgs?
You mean, well, if you ask AZCDL will be participating in the Gun Rights Policy Conference. By the way, it'll be in Phoenix this year, so it's real handy to a lot of people who are on this, who are listening in, and it's only a plane flight or two away for a lot of others. So, and I recommend people go. You'll learn a lot. You'll meet people. You get to meet John Lott, Ellen Gottlieb. You get to meet the people. Plus, it's a great time to show off your state organization. If you've got a good org and you've done something during the year, you'll get a call.
Sorry, if your organization has done something during the year, you're encouraging them to show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or if you're just curious, or let's say you live in a bad state for civil rights like Maryland, and you want to know what you could do to form an organization, it's a great place to go. You learn a lot. You get a lot of info. You meet people. You kind of rub noses, get information, trade business cards. It's a great event. Also, you meet people like Emily Miller and Stephen Halbrook, who wrote That Every Man Be Armed, and a whole bunch of great treatises. You meet Clayton Kramer, who's written very scholarly works on the development of rights. Dr. David Hardy. And you meet the luminaries of the self-defense civil rights movement.
So it sounds like you're, in y'all's case, y'all started an organization and a very successful one at that, but what are some of the ways that you would recommend, like just the average guy who, likes guns but goes to a regular job 9 to 5 just to get involved? Like what can we do?
Join your state level organization and make sure that it has what it takes to be effective. And if it doesn't, volunteer. And if you want to know what that takes, you can get in touch with me. You can email me at Charles Heller, Heller, at azcdl.org. Again, Charles Heller at azcdl.org. And I can put you in touch with the right people for any information you need, whether it's collateral stuff or whether it's advice.
I'm just going to stop you because it's getting kind of garbled.
All right. We're willing to help you either start an organization or make it more effective, and we don't want anything for it. We don't charge anybody for our advice. What we want is freedom. So, any way you want to get it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's no... How much extra does it cost to be nice? If somebody wants help, if someone wants to have the level of freedom in their state that we have here, how much extra does it say? Sure, well, what does it cost us to say, yeah, we'll send you a PDF file of our bylaws, or yeah, I'll give you a file.
A little soft. We'll send you a PDF of our file.
Right, or we'll spend 20 minutes counseling with you on the phone. I mean, what is that? What would it say about us if we weren't willing to help?
Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Dano's been asking a question. What would Charles like to see from a national level organization that is not being done now?
I would like to see, what I'd really like to see done, I'd like to see somebody come up with a parachute regiment of lawyers. And any time, like the circumstance you saw, this girl in New Jersey who didn't know any better and went from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, got pulled over, declared her firearm, and ended up in the slammer for a long time. Just a huge kerfuffle. I'd like to see a parachute regiment of lawyers from a national organization that would drop into a jurisdiction. I'm talking about a team of
So you're fading out, but you're saying a national level lawyers?
Like a dream
Yeah.
team, like OJ's dream team.
Yeah,
Like
and
just
I mean a parachute regiment of lawyers, and not only would go in there and defend the person pro bono who is charged with some ridiculous, uh, parking meter violation that turns into a felony. I would like to see that happen, but I would also like to see him go after the prosecutor, investigate the prosecutor, and see if
Go after the prosecutor?
Mm-hmm. And see if there isn't something the prosecutor, some dirty deal the prosecutor's done, and bring that to light. And I would like every time in the United States a prosecutor wants to go after somebody on a gun issue.
Every time a prosecutor wants to go after somebody?
Right. Every time a prosecutor wants to go after somebody just on the gun issue alone, not by misuse. I'm not talking about legalizing crime. I'm talking about prosecuting just ordinary people who are engaging in self-defense. I would like to see that prosecutor.
You'd like to see that prosecutor?
As soon as you mention the name of this dream team that drops in, they suddenly get an allergy and drop the case.
And then that fear of that looming, the potential of that would stop them from bringing up frivolous ones, right? They'd have to really want to fight if they were going to bring that kind of stuff up.
Right, either that or they'd have to be a total, anus about it. In which case, they'd eventually get found out too.
I like it. Now, I guess the follow-up to that would be: do you think that's doable? Do you see anybody being able to make that happen?
Oh, there's several organizations that could make it happen. In effect, Second Amendment Foundation is doing that now. They're really blazing a trail. What they're doing, though, is they're doing it in a rational way. They're finding perfect victims like Dick Heller, and then they're suing forming a case around that framing.
Now, Second Amendment Foundation also helped in Illinois bring in concealed carry back, correct?
Absolutely, they're the reason it happened, and they're also the reason that Dick McDonald, Owen McDonald. McDonald's first name.
Sorry, you're fading out.
McDonald's first name, I'm forgetting. I think it's Owen McDonald.
It's Old McDonald.
Yeah, right. That's who it is. And the man's a wonderful guy. I met him. He passed away last year. I think it's Owen McDonald. But anyway, Mr. McDonald, the Second Amendment Foundation is the reason that suit went forward.
Now that brings me to another question that I've often tried to. I've always put it on my whiteboard as a project to do, but you can probably do it off the top of your head. Is it just going through the major organizations, which in my mind, I'm going to try to do them chronologically. The NRA, the NSSF, then we're talking like JPFO, Second Amendment Foundation, Citizens Committee to Keep and Bear Arms, and you fill in if there's any other
GOA
level ones. Gun Owners of America, thanks. Of those organizations, can you give us kind of a landscape? Because I know that some of them are more lobbyists and some of them are more going to the Supreme Court, like with lawyers, like you were just saying. Some of them are doing local funding. Can you kind of help put the playing field?
Join them all. Yeah, join them all.
No, I'm not saying put them in order of better or worse or anything. I'm just saying, can you help give us what their focuses are?
Well, GOA is national. It's a purist organization. They have two divisions. They have both a lobbying organization and they have an educational. They teach local lobbyists how to be effective, and they're very, very good at what they do, and they have a presence in Congress. NRA is national, and it has a lobbying wing called ILA, the Institute for Legislative Action, and which is very good again at what it does, but it's more national in scope, and because of that, what works in Virginia definitely does not work the same in.
Just fade it out. What works in Virginia?
Yeah, things don't work the same way in Virginia as they do here, and so having a national organization is good to fight in the national legislature, but
it's fading out. Having the national level is good for the national level causes, like you said.
For national level causes, but when it comes to the local stuff, you need organizations like Citizens Defense Leagues and like Florida Carry, and other great organizations like that to take up the fight at the more local level. One size doesn't fit all, is what I'm saying. And then you have other organizations that are, state organizations tend to be the real pit bulls.
The state are more what?
Are the real pit bulls in the fight. They're the ones who are at the grassroots level, and they're working at the state legislatures, like Ohio Carry and Buckeye Firearms Association, and there's a similar organization in Missouri. A lot of state level organizations that are very, very good.
And these are all about the same size. I mean, none of these were some elaborate group that got together of dozens and dozens of people, right? These all pretty much started, I'm assuming, with...
Yeah, they're all grassroots activists, but among the largest is the Arizona Citizens Defense League, and Virginia. We're larger than Virginia Citizens Defense League, and we haven't been around anywhere near as long. Our rate of growth is phenomenal. If you look at a curve starting in 2005 and going to 2015, approaching 12,000 members. Pretty good curve.
And there's no reason to not join another state's Citizens Defense League, correct?
No. We have lots of members from foreign countries, People's Republic of California, Kazakhstan up to the north. We've got a lot of foreign country. Remember, we got a machine gun dealer from England that's a member of our AZCDL. I mean, it's an eclectic variety of people. But to answer your question...
I'm going to just stop you so you can answer our question.
Sure. I was just going to say, to answer your question, the different organizations, JPFO, for instance, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, is not a fighting organization per se. It's a publisher. We publish great...
It's education.
Right. It's an educational organization. We publish great works, DVDs, books, things you can use along in your fight. In your state or national legislature. We have a video called No Guns for Jews. It's a history of how disarmament has been used against the Jews. We have one called No Guns for Negroes, and it's the same thing. It shows how gun control has been used against blacks. We're going to have another one soon called No Guns for Teachers, and we're moving on. So different organizations have different functions. They're not all working towards the exact same thing. And for instance, JPFO does no lobbying whatsoever. We're a 501c3. A C3 doesn't lobby. A C4 can, a C3 doesn't. You know the difference between C3 and C4? C4 makes a bigger explosion.
Yeah.
So, this is the most serious I've been for any length of time, and consistently in a long time.
And there's no need to be, but I'm glad you're giving us all the info. We are getting a lot of people thanking us for the info, and obviously having issues with the sound. Big deal. If you can't deal with real life, I mean, we're obviously not super polished. I think even if we had $1 million, we'd rather spend that $1 million on, getting patches out there for people for free, or putting little business cards in everybody's gun shop, than worrying about if our computers and internets are hot rodded. So hopefully people can deal with the audio.
One thing it says, what can we do from my experience at the local level, where you live? The best thing you can do is find like-minded people. Do not go out on your own and do 1-man or 5-man or 10-man protests. Protests are not the most effective thing in the world, although what just happened in Washington, over 1,000 people did a swap meet basically on public property in violation of I-594. They all went together and traded their guns back and forth.
Well, in violation of their law about having firearms?
Right. The new initiative that just, after it went into effect, they had a rally, and everybody at the rally passed their gun to somebody else, which is an open and notorious violation, and law enforcement absolutely refused to do anything about it. And what are you going to do, arrest 1,000 people at once? It's a little difficult. And what if all 1,000 of them demanded a jury? You want to stop gun law prosecution? Go out and have...
Wait, if you're going to stop criminal prosecution, go ahead.
No, I said gun law prosecution. Go out and get 1,000 or 5,000 people to all violate it at once, and everybody do a jury demand. You will tie every court system in your state in knots.
Speaking of court cases, I had a question. I live in a state where the legislature, I live in Hawaii, and the legislature is very blue. Each county's police chief is the one that issues or does not issue. It's a may issue state. It's the concealed carry permits. To the best of my knowledge, it is may issue, but they don't issue them. I believe Baker is the one that went after the Oahu police chief. What do you think that will go through and actually help us in the end, or is that going to fall flat?
I'm not familiar with... Go ahead.
Oh, no. Basically, he sued the police chief of Oahu for not issuing him a concealed carry permit. I believe it went through the Ninth Circuit, and basically he won. They tried to kick it up to the appellate, and it's just kind of been sitting in limbo. And one of the things that it says in our state law is that basically each county's police chief, so like Maui County, Island of Hawaii, Island of Oahu, each county's police chief is the one that may issue the permit. The permit is in the state law $10 for a year. It is not good for any other county, and basically they don't issue them to regular people, basically. Because when the guy was in court, basically they asked the state's attorney or whatever, it's like, well, can you prove the last time that you issued one to like a regular person? And she could not demonstrate any issuance of any permits. I'm just like, what would be a good direction to try and start? Because it's just so, I mean, we have mandatory registration, we have background checks, we have all of those things already. What is it going to take to try and get it to go from may issue to shall issue, or would it be better to, instead of going to shall issue, just trying to get constitutional carry?
Well, constitutional carry is a big leap. To go from where you are now to constitutional carry is probably such an uphill grade that it may be too hard to do. You probably have to get your rights back the way they've been taken away from you, which is incrementally, would be my guesstimate. The best thing to do would be if you could get the legislature to budge a little bit on shall issue. But chances are Hawaii is so blue that the legislature is not going to do that, and the only way to do it is to get yourself a really good victim and frame the case and kind of do a Dick Heller on them and get it forced.
I think that's what this Baker case is going to potentially help us with, because I think that the plaintiff basically did win it, and then the state tried to kick it up to the appellate, and it's in some form of limbo right now. So I think that currently is going to be, because it's like you said, it's the guy. We have maybe not the perfect victim, but we have it moving forward. At the very least, it's at least a chance, so to speak. It might be the only chance we got, though.
The momentum is in our direction. If you look at the decisions since Heller, you have McDonald, you have the one in the Seventh Circuit in Illinois, which forced concealed carry, or discrete carry, we like to call it, on Illinois and especially on Chicago. The momentum is in our direction. Every time someone has tried this, if you look at Peruta in California, which is forcing shall issue onto California, the momentum is in our direction. So you just have to be patient, Like I say, we didn't lose our rights overnight. We don't gain them back overnight. And the absolutists don't help matters much, because the perfect becomes the enemy of the good. Somebody asked...
Just interrupting you for the volume.
Robbie asked, when are the laws and public opinion changing in our favor, or is this a never-ending fight? Two-part answer. One, it's a never-ending fight. Don't ever think this is ever going to change in terms of the fight. Bloomberg or Bloomberg's grandkids will always come up with a new idea to fluster cluck our rights, and we just have to keep thinking of new ideas to keep our freedom. The human desire, the God-inspired human desire for freedom, has more. The inner tube of liberty has more energy than the ice pick of statism to poke holes in it. So you just got to keep a positive attitude. You ain't beat unless you quit, and keep fighting it. And as far as public opinion, I don't know if you've seen some of the recent polling, but public opinion is greatly in favor of right to keep and bear arms.
I just want to interrupt you because that's a great point. Sorry, public opinion.
Yeah, public opinion is vastly has turned in the last 20 years. Public opinion is vastly on our side. Look how many people. There's 12 million CCW permits in the United States. You know, let's make it 50 million. I'm not in favor of concealed weapons permits. I'm in favor of constitutional carry. But for New Jersey, shall issue concealed weapons permits, and for Hawaii, shall issue concealed weapons permits.
Sorry, just interrupting you for the volume again.
In New Jersey and Hawaii, shall issue CCW would be a huge step forward. I'm not in favor of CCW permits. I'm in favor of constitutional carry. However, getting us there, CCW permits wouldn't hurt.
You're saying CCW permits get us to constitutional carry. I'm not sure if we
They
hear
can.
Sometimes the audience can't hear us completely, so sorry again for the audience.
They can. I don't say they will, because I don't believe in that, but, you know, gradualism works. What they're working on right now in Illinois is liberalizing the CCW permit. And eventually that will happen. Eventually it'll get to where it's very regular and ordinary. Right now it's very difficult still, but they'll get it smoothed out.
I'm saying it's sorry, that's a good point about the incremental way to bring it into Illinois, that it's new to them now. Once it becomes old hat to see people with CCW, then take it to constitutional, right?
I'm sorry, say again?
You were saying once people get used to seeing people in Illinois with constitutional, or excuse me, with CCW, then you take it to constitutional carry.
I don't know that Illinois ever will, but it certainly makes it, when you once you defeat the blood in the streets argument, it makes it much easier to make other arguments.
At least the doors can be open at that point. It's up to them to want to open the doors, I guess.
Right, if they want to go further. Robbie also wanted to know about repealing NFA. I don't know that we're going to repeal NFA. We might get stuff out of it. I think there's a good chance down the road we'll get suppressors out of NFA. There is a movement to do that.
Have you paid attention to the SIG arm brace issues?
Not really. ATF is gonna try and figure out new ways to screw people all the time. I mean, just don't expect anything else.
So we kind of went past JPFO there without actually introducing it. So if it's okay, if I think we've been going for about, let me click on this, about a little over an hour. Can we go to an hour, 90 minutes, go to an hour and a half? Does that sound good for everybody?
Not a problem.
Okay.
Fine with me.
I'm half Jewish, so I'm okay with it.
But I thought we might want to address the JPFO specifically, because like I say, we kind of brought it up, but as an organization, maybe give us, you know, as Alan would tell me, the elevator speech about what it is, what it does, where it came from, where it's going.
JPFO, Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, was formed in 1989 by Aaron Zellman. Originally, it was to try to get the Jews to be more friendly to the right to keep and bear arms. Once Aaron realized that the majority of people joining his Jewish organization weren't Jewish, the light went on in his head and he expanded the mission to simply ending all gun control. It's a pretty big mission.
Oh.
That's good.
Just interrupting you so you can reset the volume.
I'm just saying that Aaron Zellman believed that all gun control is poison, and his idea was to get rid of the poison. That was the idea of his organization. His way of doing it was to publish literature, books, movies that illustrated the evils of gun control, and his mission still lives.
And he does it in a very in-your-face and hard-to-deny, I think. Almost, well, I was going to say comic book, but you know, it's more like, to me, the comic that the Vietnam-era M16 instruction guide that had like the comic theme to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they remind me of. They're
Yeah,
comics, they're drawn, but they're not. Well, they're for kids too, but they're not baby kids. They're not like Eddie Eagle stuff. They're to the point issues.
Right. They're they're adult cartoons, if you will, and it's the Grandpa Jack series.
And then the bumper stickers again are just real nice. They get the point across quickly and maybe a little bit too blunt for some people, but not in a too blunt way, really.
Yeah, I designed both of those. One of them says gun control is not kosher, and it has the JPFO logo on it. The other one says no more Nazi gun control laws, and it has a swastika with a circle and a slash through it. Some people see that and they think that it's promoting Nazism, but you have to look at it and read it. But it really does slap some people in the face.
And I got every once in a while on the Instagram or on Facebook or whatever, I'll post pictures of my Glock cookies, and that's with cookie cutters from JPFO.
Yeah, what a great idea! Bake a dozen and take them to your school and see what happens. Hey, you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about that horrible video that was put out a few weeks ago.
Oh, you're cutting out, but you're talking about the video with the kid who was encouraged to steal a gun and bring it to school.
Right, to take his parents' gun out of the dresser drawer, which is terribly stored, not in a holster, a semi-auto wrapped in a shirt, and which is a prescription for disaster in and of itself. And he takes the gun, takes it to school, and after class, kind of clumps it down on the desk and says, "Here, can you get to the teacher? Can you get rid of this? I'm not comfortable with it in my home." And
yeah, we don't. I'm afraid of this on my home or something like that.
Right, I don't feel comfortable, and so I don't feel safe. Right. Well, it would be at least 5 felonies that they're encouraging children to commit. And one of the things that we at AZCDL are saying is, hey, is this the same level of logic that the people who want background checks are using?
Sorry, you cut out there. This is the same level of logic.
Is this the same level of logic used by people who want background checks?
What do you mean? Because a lot of people will say, like, oh, well, like the background check thing in Washington, a lot of pro-gun people voted for that. Like it's like a common sense kind of. A lot of pro-gun people don't have a problem with background check, and for the most part, I don't. Like, I used to not really care at all, but like, I realize I'm from New York, so if Bloomberg's organization from New York City, not even the state, like they come to your state and they have an agenda, you have to look at like their end game is probably to get your state like their city, and their city is pretty bad. So I can't believe a word that comes out of their mouth. Like if they went to Washington and said, all we want is this like background check bill, and then we're going to leave you alone forever and ever and ever. Like, I doubt it. I think they're going to come back the next time with something even more, but they're saying basically in that state, they're pretty much, that was it, that's all they're going to get past, and they're moving on to Arizona and Nevada. But I don't even know what I'm saying. Just that ad in the television ad with the kid, how many felonies did that kid just like commit? And then on top of that, he put himself in danger, right? The teacher, her face looks like she's in utter shock and in fear of like she's gonna get shot. So she would probably call the police. The principal would call the police.
Oh, there's no probably in it. She would absolutely call the police. The problem with background check, to go back to your question, is that it's not just a background check. First of all, it criminalizes private transfer of firearms, which is a totally legal product. It's a product that's mentioned in the Constitution, right? It's a basic freedom that we have, and it's turning it into a government privilege. That's the biggest problem. It's asking mother, may I, before you transfer a gun. And furthermore, you can give a gun as a gift to certain family members. But the thing I mentioned earlier with Ken, with our speaker at the Arizona Citizens Defense League meeting, where I loan him a gun for the weekend, well, that's crime under that bill. And that's exactly what they want. They want to make every firearm
They want to make
it a crime. They want to criminalize virtually every transfer. The only ones that aren't criminal are the ones that are on paper. The ones on paper.
And that's I don't think that's their end game. Like I think they want to go further. Eventually, they are hoping in the future they might be able to get some sort of assault weapon or assault pistol bill, and then they'll be able to go through the records, see who has what, and then maybe not confiscate, but give you like what they did in New York with the SAFE Act. Like you have until April 1st to sell all of your pre-banned magazines out of state, or we're going to throw you in jail.
Right. The other thing you're seeing in New York is like this one that came out today, where a guy went to see a psychologist for a sleep disorder, for insomnia, and he's a retired police officer, and the state of New York just confiscated all his guns. What they
Wasn't at risk? They deemed him at risk?
Yeah, they deemed him at risk, and under the SAFE Act, they seized all 4 of his registered handguns. You guy's a retired cop, got no thoughts of suicide.
retired cop.
Yeah, retired cop, no thoughts of harming himself or others, and they just came and seized his guns.
Now, I have a question for you, Charles. I don't know if we've ever addressed this in our chats or if you've ever dealt with it, but this recent Bloomberg action in Washington, was it deliberately worded the way it was for a result, or was it worded so that it would get through and they were happy with the win? Or is this a step in a chess game that's bigger?
No, it's a step in a chess game that's bigger, and it's also it was also designed to be ambiguous so that it could be enforced broadly. It was designed so that it would be very difficult to know what was legal and illegal.
So they didn't accidentally put down a shadow. They strategically put down some mist so that it's there, but no one can really define what it can do and what its reach is.
This is exactly what Gruber was talking about when he was candid about how Obamacare was passed. It relied on people's lack of knowledge. I won't say stupidity, but it is. It required people's lack of knowledge to understand that it wasn't a background check. It was way. It's an 18-page bill. It only takes a couple sentences to require a background check. This was an 18-page bill. It was designed to be ambiguous.
So we're talking about the concepts of it, and we're basically scratching the surface, let's say, in a 90-minute conversation like this where we talk about multiple topics. So let me ask again, because the concept of this group, these get-togethers on the 2nd of every month, is to help people get focused and do something and not just be outraged and shake their fist at the sky. So the Gun Rights Policy Conference, is that a place where you and other people who are involved in I'm going to call it a major way with the pro-freedom, anti-gun people, when you guys get together as gun people, are you looking at strategies and talking about strategies? I mean, is this something that we've got a battle room or whatever that's called, a war room, and we've got, you guys are the generals and you guys are seeing the strategies that they're doing, or we've got people that are coming from the other side that are giving us insight to their board meetings or something? Is there a big plan, or are we all just individuals, and even the groups are individuals?
Well, there's no central plan for freedom. There's a number of groups and organizations that are working together, especially in Arizona, that are working together to make sure that the Bloomberg Initiative doesn't come to Arizona. But as far as GRPC for that, no. GRPC is where like minds can get together and talk about it and form alliances. But there is no overarching large organization that's going to fight this. Like I say, there's no central plan for freedom. Freedom wouldn't be freedom if it was centrally planned.
Good point. But it's conducive to it. So then, do you think that there's a role for something like that, or would that be too confining, and then that would be opening us up for a flank?
No, I don't think what we ought to do. I don't think that what we ought to do is have a central plan for freedom. I think what we ought to do is associate in loose groups, like along the lines of the militia. You have various groups doing various things and then cooperating where it's efficacious to do so.
So true freedom, where you think family, community, country, and people interact with each other for mutual benefit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. What we've done in Arizona is we formed an alliance of all the self-defense civil rights groups. We formed an alliance between AZCDL and the other stakeholders in the state. And we are planning to, you will see what happens based on some of our planning, but I'll tell you now, we're going to do some big-time advertising.
I'm glad to hear that. And you got whatever resources I can offer. Now,
yeah, I'm going to
mention the word militia. Go ahead.
I'm going to ping you for that as time goes on, but you were saying about militia?
You bet. Since we said militia, hopefully, we have this concept of getting conversations going with people because of the patch, and they go to the website, Every Second Matters. That's every 2ND matters.us. We did that as opposed to every second spelled out.com because that's a Canadian women's shelter. So it's fairly obvious if you type in the wrong thing, you're going to get to the U.S. one or the Canadian one. Anyway, we did it at Every Second Matters so that we get these conversations started out in public, and hopefully even some passerby or someone would overhear that in a coffee shop and think, oh, I'm going to check that out when I get home. That sounds interesting. And hopefully we have a rational enough discussion here that even people that are either rabid anti-freedom, anti-gun, or on the fence are listening to this, and let's say they've listened an hour into this. I lost my train of thought trying to explain that to that. So with that audience in mind, when you said, you mentioned militia, where are the militia? Because we're in Arizona, we're a border state, and there's militias out here, the whole fence thing, and who knows what people in those groups I just tried to describe, what they might be thinking of when they think of militia. But I've got to assume that it's, in some respects, they think we're probably the militia or something. And I know that, technically we are, blah, 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 everybody's a militia, right? But I mean, the real word militia and all the connotation that comes along with it, where do they fall in with the groups that we've been talking about, the Arizona Citizens Defense League, the Arizona, the Pistol Association or whatever it is, and then the NRA at the Arizona level?
We did not lose our rights to a militia, and we're not going to regain our rights through a militia. We are going to regain our rights at the legislatures and in the courts through constant, focused, devoted attention. Armed conflict is not the way to gain your right. I mean, yeah, that's how we got the country, but let's not repeat that enterprise.
And anything that we've been talking about, the groups we've been talking about, I mean, obviously we're talking about Second Amendment issues, but we're not talking about call to arms at any point here.
No, nobody here thinks that it's a good way to live, to have your only answer to government be over the front sight of a rifle. I don't think any rational person believes that. And
however, none of us have lost some sight that that's the ultimate reason for the Second Amendment. And again, I mean, it's not off the table. It's just that it's not.
I thought it was for hunting.
Yeah, right. Right.
Wasn't it? I just wanted to try to mention that because again, I have no problem with any of that stuff the militia's doing here in Arizona, at least that I'm familiar with, unless they're doing some kind of crime or something. It's just that we're not talking militia organizations here. We're talking legislative, educational, and
right.
Informational organizations.
And the 53rd Lawyer Parachute Regiment.
I grew up in the 80s and the 90s some, but like I yearn for the times where the anti-gun movement basically was arguing the Second Amendment does not apply to you and does not apply to the American citizen. It was for the militia. Do you remember those days? Oh
yeah.
Maybe I don't remember it correctly because I was so young, but what happened to those days? And they were basically
laid to rest by the Heller decision.
But that was like 4 years ago or something?
Right.
So but now it's like, oh no, we believe your right to bear arms in your house, unloaded, or not in your car, not on the street. It was just such a simple fight back then, before Heller, I guess. It was just, stop lying, because back then it really was target practice and hunting. The Second Amendment is there for hunting and target practice, and politicians would say that with a straight face.
You know, if you want to see the best answer in the world to that, look up on YouTube Susan Gratia Hupp's testimony before Charles Schumer's committee, where she basically told him, you know, I don't have guns here. We don't have guns to hunt. We basically have guns if we need them on you, to use on you. Boy, Schumer was not happy to hear that testimony. She's the one whose parents were murdered at Luby's Cafeteria in 1991 in Killeen, Texas.
And then the whole, because like a couple years ago, the argument was, well, that's ridiculous because the government has tanks, airplanes, and all this other stuff, and it's ridiculous. It's obsolete. Let's get over it. Because there were people like Bill Maher and other celebrities and people talking heads that were still trying to go back to that 90s argument that the Second Amendment is obsolete. And I just wish they would go back to that because they'll lose every time on that. You know?
Well, it's not about winning and losing. It's about getting our rights back. But if people who believe the way Mr. Maher does ought to read the book Unintended Consequences, they would learn very quickly exactly how it works.
Oh, I threw out a last question or a last call for questions here, and I got a great one for you, Charles. Something that I guess both of us neglected to mention is that Charles is, I mean, I don't know anybody personally. I only know one person, I think, who probably is a more extensively trained CCW instructor. That would be
Chester.
But I mean, I don't know. Charles has been a CCW instructor since I've known him, which is more than 10 years now. So the question in the chat there is from, how are we saying that, Donkey? But go ahead and you can see the question there.
Question, Charles, or in general, is there a good resource for locating a gun-friendly lawyer to put on retainer? Well, that's a great question. The NRA has a referral list. I don't know how gun-friendly they are. I used an NRA recommended attorney once and came out with an okay result on a case I had in Massachusetts. But I don't know. If you're in Arizona, the best guy as far as self-defense is Mark Victor in Chandler, Arizona.
Said Mark Victor?
Yeah, Mark Victor in Chandler, Arizona. If you're in Massachusetts, if you're in the East, Evan Nappen. If you're
that name, I couldn't even repeat it back to you. It really got garbled.
Evan Nappen is his name. In California, Chuck Michel. I mean, there's a lot of good self-defense civil rights attorneys around, but as far as a resource to find them, I don't know. I know a few.
But that's good. That's a
lot of appellate guys, but not a whole bunch of trial guys.
What do you think about the recent like CCW USA or all these different organizations like the CCW insurance companies and stuff that are out there?
I think you're crazy not to have some kind of plan. Whether it's second call self-defense or whether it's the USCCA, I think you're crazy if you carry not to have one of them.
Maybe that's another discussion that we could have for a
topic.
You
probably ought to have You probably ought to have Marty from Second Call Defense on and have.
We'll have the guys from Citizens or the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Have them all on. Do a round table with all of them. That'd be funny. I don't think any of them will talk to each other, but it's kind of funny to do that. Put them all on together. I'm better. No, I'm better.
Well,
that's
they're
a
all
good idea
too. We're up to about an hour and a half, not quite on the dot, but these are going to be turned into podcasts, so people that are listening to these out on the internet, you know that, but people that are watching, we do turn these into podcasts, so check them out on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. I'm going to kind of wrap it up, but I'm going to let do you guys want to do anything as far as introing your channels or anything? Anything coming up? Anything we should know about? You know, part of Every Second Matters is talking about what we did during the month and what we did today. Anybody? I don't want to neglect that aspect of it because we're kind of changing the format a bit. You guys that are in here, anybody watching? kind of let that out there.
My channel speaks for itself. I don't know.
Right on. Well, here's the thing. You'll know that I don't only associate with the YouTube channels that are out there, doing the high production, big audience stuff. I mean, I know those guys and we're friends and everything, but I'm really digging the grassroots part of YouTube, and that anybody with some time and a laptop can watch, and anybody with a microphone and a camera, if they want, can participate. And that's sort of the whole goal of this whole kind of campaign. I don't know what else to call it. So I want to thank everybody for watching, and people that did participate with questions. Thanks for keeping it moving with Charles. And again, this was our first time doing it, and this was kind of on the fly. So Charles, I do appreciate your being flexible and adapt with the technology. And is there anything that you want to say as an outro here as we leave?
Just that if you want to reach me, you can do it at Charles Heller, HELLER, at azcdl.org. That's Arizona Citizens Defense League.org. Charles Heller at azcdl.org.
Thank you very, very much for your time, sir.
My pleasure. I'll be happy to do it again.
Right on. And thanks for everything you've done throughout the time. I mean, obviously spending some time last night was cool, but you've been fighting this fight for a long time, and I'm sure you don't want me to tell everybody how rich you're getting off of this, but it's not for the money.
Yeah, Wells Fargo would like it if I was a little richer and pay the mortgage. All right.
But we do appreciate it. Don't jump off, because when we hit the button, this room will still exist. We'll be able to chat and catch up and stuff. But again, thanks everybody for watching. We do this on the 2nd of every month. There's nothing to join. If you do want to buy a patch, we basically do them at cost. All the money that we make on the patches goes either towards the next set of patches or paying Wesley off for buying $100 worth of stickers that go out with the patches. So really, it's just the idea is to get the things made so that there's a logo out there, so that conversation gets started. And we'll be doing more of those in the future as as demand necessitates it or whatever. So nothing to join, just participate when you feel like it on the various social medias. Hashtag Every Second Matters, right? And all that kind of stuff. So again, thanks everybody for watching, and well, we'll come up with some catchy outro here eventually.